And we are live. Welcome once again to Will Smith's favorite podcast. This is J&J Dating Dynamics, episode 10. We are celebrating 10 episodes tonight. Justin, my friend, how are you? What are we talking about today?
Not bad. How about yourself?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Always lucky to have the beautiful Sarita here. Jade, Justin, we got flaked on today, man. We just talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago, and we got flaked on. Jade, we still love you. You got to make it up to us if you're watching. Where's Sarita on Instagram? She's on
It's
Instagram.
not working.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you're on Instagram and want to see Sarita's beautiful face and beautiful dog, I am going to put the link in the comments. If you give me a chance, while Justin tells you what we are talking about today, it's going to be a good one.
Today we're going to be talking about hypergamy.
And okay, so before we get there, actually, I have a couple clips I want to play. I want to have a quote I want to share. I'll start with the quote so that the folks on Instagram can still be engaged. But the video, then I'm going to ask you guys on Instagram to come over to YouTube. So let me put the quote up on the screen because I think this quote, and all the credit goes out first off to Rolle Tomassi. Hypergamy is a concept that he coined it, and it's pretty much become accepted evolutionary psychology. So let me bring up this quote from Sheryl Sandberg. Well, hang on. Before we get there, Sarita, how are you, babe? How are you, babe?
I'm doing great.
Let's bring you in. Just for folks that didn't watch episode 1, give us obviously your name, where people can find you on Instagram. Give us your age, your occupation, maybe relationship status. If you want to go as far as body count, that's on you.
Well, my name's Sarita. Sarita, 35 on Instagram, 2 A's. I am 25 years old. I'm in a relationship right now. What do I do for work? I am a cybersecurity consultant. So, women in IT. And for fun, I like to do jujitsu and ride bikes.
Yeah, she does. She did buy a bike from me while I was a Harley. She rides some pretty badass Harley. There's a bad chick right here. Sarita, how long you been in your relationship for?
8 months now.
Okay.
9 months. Yeah.
All right. Do you guys know? That's pretty long. That's good. Do you guys know who Sheryl Sandberg is?
No.
She is the former CEO of Facebook, one of the richest women in the world. She is the definition of what you and I, Justin, talk about all the time, that top tier career woman. That's Sheryl Sandberg. So she has a quote that goes, let me share it here. Can you guys see it on screen?
Let's zoom in a little bit.
Zoom in a little bit. Too much. Or is that good?
That's good.
All right, that works. All right, let me read it for the benefit of everybody on Instagram. Sheryl Sandberg says, this is a segment or a book that she wrote or something that she did about advice to women. So she says, when looking for a life partner, my advice to women is to date all of them. Date the bad boys, the cool boys, the commitment phobic boys, the crazy boys, but do not marry them. The things that make the bad boys sexy do not make them good husbands. When it comes time to settle down, find someone who wants an equal partner. The quote goes on to read, over time, nothing is sexy. So,
over time, what?
Nothing is sexier. Now, it is worth mentioning that Sheryl Sandberg is in her 4th marriage. She's been divorced twice, and she was widowed once. She has 2 children, I think by the first or second husband. And she always married, and she's always been with CEO level men. She's only dated CEOs. So, Justin, I don't know if you want to talk about or talk to that real quick, speak to that, because I know that's been a focus for you for a little bit.
That's a tough one. I mean,
well, I think the quote pretty much sums up hypergamy to a T.
I don't know how Sarita takes this quote, but
how do you feel about it, Sarita?
Oh, wait, put the quote back up.
All right, here we go.
I feel like it's true because like when you go for the bad boys, like you get that mystery, you get that just like that sense of excitement that when you're in a marriage or a long-term committed relationship, you want more stability than excitement. Like there should still be moments where you're like surprised and wowed, but to have that I feel like that's more, it would be toxic to be with commitment phobic guys.
Right.
And trying to work a marriage out of that, where it is supposed to be a lifelong partnership between two people.
Okay, very cool. I feel that that quote sets the rest of this whole conversation really well. And if you don't know what hypergamy is, please put on YouTube or Google Rolle Tomassi hypergamy. I will put some links down in the description for the video when we're done. He is essentially the man who quoted or who coined this entire concept, I guess, if you want to call it, which has become an accepted, I guess we could call it hypothesis in evolutionary psychology. So,
I mean, to be honest with that quote, it actually just looks like a regular woman's life.
that's the thing. That's the advice she's giving women, and
I
that's
mean, to
why.
be honest, like, of course, when you're young, you're gonna go look for that bad boy. You're gonna look for the cool
Right.
guys, and you're gonna want the guy you can't get, the commitment phobic boys and the crazy ones, and they're gonna hurt you. And I feel like that's what eventually women learn. And then
Yeah, and hypergamy is it's essentially a way to condense down and articulate the dualistic nature of women's mating strategy.
yeah, but for Cheryl to find an equal partner,
That's
obviously
her
she's
problem.
gonna the man that she ends up with is gonna have to be on a CEO level.
Right. That's because women, because of hypergamy, always have that tendency to want to mate or marry up or across. They never want to date or marry down. Do you agree with that, Sarita?
Yes and no, but I feel like it also depends on the guy. Because the
Well,
guy
sure, there's
also
always going to be exceptions.
he has to be comfortable with her making more than him, or he has to be comfortable with her having more leadership in a relationship. And if he's not comfortable with that and secure enough in himself, then it would never work. So generally speaking, it would be easier for a woman to date and marry up, because
that's where we get into the entire alpha fucks beta bucks concept, right? So that's essentially the concept of saying that is where we get into, Justin, transactional versus validational sex. She's going to have that validational sex with those alpha guys. Then she's going to have the transactional sex with the beta guys, the guys who are eventually going to become the provider, the guys she's going to try to mold into that perfect husband. The problem later becomes that once she's molded him and changed him into that perfect husband, the things that made him attractive in the first place no longer apply, because that guy now became a boring guy. Now, Sarita, you said you did not agree with what I said earlier. You said partly yes, partly no?
Mm-hmm. I think it just depends on both people.
Okay, depends on both people. All right, we are almost at 10 minutes. Let me drop in the link into the Instagram comments one more time and have everybody come over there so they can see the quote and they can see Sarita's beautiful face and they can see the video explanation we're about to play, which essentially boils down hypergamy to a 3-minute explanation. Sound good?
Yeah. Well, you didn't send me a regular link how we've been doing, so I wasn't able to repost tonight. And I don't have a clickable link for anyone to share,
Well,
but
I just dropped it in the comments, but
no one can click this.
no one can click that?
Yeah, unfortunately, nobody's sitting there and
All right.
actually typing this out.
Okay, gotcha. Well, that's a good thing to know. Let me send it to you then, and
I mean, it's too late. We're not going to be able to do that right now. But
well, that's
for
what happens
those
on a
of
live show.
you who know how to do anything, go from here to
Go to my
YouTube.
story. It's on my story for sure. Let's just put it that way.
I've had a lot of friends even tell me, bro, I don't know where to go. It's like, bro, go to YouTube, right?
Yes.
Look for the letter J and AND J dating dynamics, and you can find our stuff.
Yep, it's bright yellow. You can't miss it.
Yeah.
That's why I made it bright yellow. All right, let's sign off of Instagram. Let's continue on YouTube so we can play this video by Richard Cooper.
All right, guys, we're
Cool.
out.
We're out. All right, now that it's just us. Every time I say that, I don't know why I do that. But, okay, so, Sarita, you had heard of hypergamy before we started this conversation, correct?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Before I ask you the next question, I'm going to ask anybody who's on YouTube, please hit the like button and please drop in your questions or comments in on the chat, and we'll be happy to get to them. And, oh, I'm still sharing this quote. Let's stop sharing this quote. Okay. And we'll be happy to get to them. So, Sarita, before you came on here, what did you understand as hypergamy? I'm sure you'd heard of it, and maybe you've had some conversations about it or seen some posts about it. So, what did you understand as hypergamy?
Essentially marrying or dating up.
Okay. What about you, Justin?
No, I agree with that.
Okay.
Always, I feel like hypergamy specifically relates to women in their search for a mate and how they're always looking upwards, mostly financially.
Sure. Okay, so I had the honor of meeting Rolle Tomassi at a convention about 3 years ago, and this is my humble brag for the day. He actually asked me to translate the book The Rational Male into Spanish, which had never been done. I managed to get about halfway through it. Then, life got in the way. We had to do other things, et cetera, et cetera. That translation, though, is still in the works, I do believe. So hypergamy, yes, it does speak to women's nature to always be trying to marry up, trying to consolidate their investment on the best possible man so that they can have the best possible children. So women look for three things. They look for protection, they look for provision, and they look for parental investment. Now, the way it all works, it boils down to alpha fucks, beta bucks. And there's long-term and there's short-term. Long-term hypergamy talks to the 20s, the party years, et cetera, et cetera. Then she gets into her 30s. We start talking about biological clocks starting to settle down. Maybe that she finds religion or et cetera, et cetera. She's no longer interested in those party years. Short-term, we're talking more ovulatory shifts. It has to do with the menstrual cycle. Now, none of this is conscious for women, right? This is all happening in the hindbrain, like little mental cues that they're looking for. But let's look at this video from Richard Cooper. It's about, I think, 4 or 5 minutes long. He explains that a lot better than I can. So let me bring that up, and then we will comment on that, which is going to be, well, before I do, any comment from you guys on what I just said?
I've never heard a reference to a long-term and short-term hypergamy, but
well, it doesn't get put that way. It gets put as the feminine imperative, which is the long-term side, the beta bug side, or going from the younger party years to the epiphany phase or the biological clock. Then the short term, it speaks to a more sexualized strategy than a life strategy. Richard you'll understand it a little better right after this.
Yeah.
Let me bring it
Because short-term sexual in your 30s, that makes no sense. I don't.
Well, no. That the short term applies the entire way, and what it speaks to is during certain parts of the ovulatory cycle, women look for different cues in men. When she's ovulating, she may dress differently. She may pay attention to different guys, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like I said, this isn't a conscious choice. It just happens.
It's also dependent on birth control, and if it's birth control and stuff too. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. For this, let's assume that they're not on birth control and it's a normal menstrual hormonal cycle.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let me finally bring this video up. I've been talking about it for like 10 minutes. Let's see. Here we go. Boom. Share and go ahead, Sarita. You were gonna say something?
No, I was just reading the comment.
Oh, okay. Oh, alpha genes, beta provider. Yeah, alpha fucks, beta bucks. All right, here we go. And this is Richard Cooper. He's a celebrated dating coach, life coach for men. I actually met him at that convention too. One day I'll come on and I'll talk about that. The whole 3 days was a great experience. That's also where I met Donovan Sharp, who we had on last week. All right, here we go.
If you want to know all the ins and outs and nitty-gritty of hypergamy, Rolle Tomassi is the man to watch on that. But the nuts and bolts that really are is a woman needs to believe that every day when she gets up in the morning, I mean, this is the way I sum it up anyway. When she gets up in the morning, that you're the best that she can do. She's got to look at you day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out, and think to herself, this dude's the best that I can do. My hypergamy satisfied. That's not what she's thinking, but this is the mechanics of it. She's satisfied with you, right? She digs your vibe. She sees you as a competent man with skills. She looks at you and thinks that you're attractive and wants to jump your bones. There's a lot of things that come into play, but that's really what hypergamy boils down to is this guy the best I can do?
Hey guys, if you need to comment or say anything, just you can speak and I'll pause the video, okay?
If she starts feeling like you're not the best that she can do, and let's say, I don't know, maybe Kevin from sales or Steve from accounting's giving her a lot of attention and they're handsome men and they're chads and they have like the standard high testosterone cues, chiseled jaws, deep voice, you know, masculinity, all that sort of stuff. And she thinks that she can do better than you. Well, maybe the clock might start ticking down. I'm not saying it's going to tick down and there's going to be an end of the relationship, but there are a lot of things that can start to happen which lead down towards that. What else can we cover with hypergamy? Yeah, that would be the like the nitty gritty of it. I mean, there's different things to consider, different times, you know, different times of the month. Women are in different parts of their cycle, and there's parts of their cycle like when they're ovulating, when they seek high testosterone cues and more alpha cues. There's times in their cycle when they're menstruating and they're not, and they're looking for more safety cues and more beta bucks. You know, we talk about alpha seed and beta need. So there's little parts of hypergamy that break down to different types of equations. But I think it's widely accepted now. And this isn't just TRP, like, you know, the red pill sort of stuff, but I think it's widely accepted even in Evo Psych authors. You know, you take a look at any of these guys that have put out some great Evo Psych books. And by the way, all of my recommended books are going to be pinned in the top comment below. So if you're watching a replay, I can't post it before the show for some reason anymore now. They don't let you. But always in the pinned top comment of all my videos, you'll see my Amazon
we're good
link,
with
that's
this
where I
guy.
recommend the books. There's some stuff in there from Evo Psych.
Say again?
I think we're good.
Yeah. Well, he does get into a couple more things, but go ahead. You got anything to say on that?
No,
I think it explains it pretty well.
Yeah, I just think that's a real thing there. Sarita, I'm actually curious into how you found your guy, being that you're in, are you Miami or Broward?
Broward.
Okay.
It's all South Florida.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I think Broward was always a little different.
Yeah, it is. It's a little more Americanized for sure.
Yeah,
People don't assume you speak Spanish at the gas station.
Before I moved back up,
depends on which gas station you're at.
before I moved back up to Jersey, I was actually considering moving to Hollywood.
Okay.
And I almost regret not doing it, but it happens because Miami, I feel like is like the hypergamy capital.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Miami's nuts. Actually, I think my next move, I keep talking about downtown and wanting to go back, but I think Hollywood's a more realistic option for me.
I think we could be neighbors.
Yeah. Well, I need to be near downtown Hollywood. I need to like walk downstairs to the bar. Is that where you are?
Basically do that.
Nice. Okay. All right. Maybe
like it's not downstairs, but like around a little bit.
So
sorry, Justin, you were
Sarita, let's hear about how you met your guy. What does he do? What's keeping you interested currently in him?
So how did I meet him? I met him at the gym, at a jiu-jitsu gym.
Okay.
He trained me for a little bit and then grew from there. We didn't date necessarily while he was training me, so there wasn't like a conflict of interest. But he is a businessman. So he owns a company in Fort Lauderdale, Dania area, and does like a lot of different side hustles like churro. He just has like a business brain. So like anything, any asset he has, he's like, how do I leverage this?
So
he
he
also-
actually is an entrepreneur. He's not an entrepreneur like the guys say.
Yeah, no, he's not like, oh yeah,
thinking
I'm an entrepreneur, because he wouldn't come out and say he's an entrepreneur.
There you go. That
Gotcha.
guys that come out and say, "Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur," they have an idea that they haven't acted on yet. That's and it's usually a bad idea.
Yeah, no, he gets ideas and he immediately acts on it. Pretty
Good.
cool.
So how did he like tick your boxes? Like, were you attracted to his mind and how he goes about business? I mean, did he get you flipping you over in class?
Everyone flips me over in class. But no, I just think it was, he caught my eye when I first saw him. And I was like, okay, he's cute. And then he was mysterious. So like that was another box checked.
He
and
wasn't?
then he was very mysterious at first. So I was like, who is this guy? And then he's also like, he showed me different parts of his personality in the way that, and like in a slower way. Because if someone comes on too strong to me, then I'm like, no, bye, like call it a day. But like he showed me how he's willing to go out and go dancing and have fun, how he provides for his friends, how he still enjoys like working out and like more meditative practices.
That
and
was
then
way too cool.
also when I moved to Hollywood, like he showed up every day.
It's okay.
And helped me with my yard. So it's like, for me, like my love language is acts of service. So like when he did that, I was just like, okay, wow, like this guy's a keeper. Like he shows up when I need him.
I love that dog. Go ahead.
Just gonna.
Go ahead.
What else? But no, I think it was a mixture of, I was physically attracted to him.
Mm-hmm.
I built an emotional connection with him over time. We had so many similar interests. He was displaying a lot of masculine traits, or just traits in general that I'm attracted to.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of just mixing it all together. It's like, oh wait, this is great. Like we have the same interests. You treat me really well. I know I can rely on you and depend on you. Like you can protect me, all that fun stuff. It's like, and then it's also the respect of, he knows that I can protect myself and provide for myself and do all those things for myself, but he allows me to grow in both like my femininity and my masculinity, because everyone has both in them. So he allows me to like grow to my strengths. Gotcha. And like have a compliment his.
So I do think that there's a difference between looking for a strong man and a provider and somebody that you're ultimately attracted to. And I feel like there's a normal sense of hypergamy, which is basically what it sounds like Sarita has. Mm-hmm. And then I feel like there's an over-exaggerated sense of hypergamy where the women are just completely undeserving of the man they're after. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Sarita, we've never actually met in person, right?
Have we? No, I don't think we have.
I don't think we
Maybe
have.
in passing.
But we have interacted here and there.
Yeah.
But I feel like I wouldn't lump you into the category with like the typical hypergamous Miami girl.
Well, no,
like,
she'll never be a typical Miami girl, but all women are hypergamous, Sarita included.
Absolutely. But like I said, I feel like there's a normal hypergamous woman, and then there's one that's like just looking way too far out of her league.
I think there's a difference between, like, because as women, or I can't say as women, but like me personally speaking, I've been in relationships in the past where I've been like, I can do so much better than this.
There you go.
And then I would go through 6-month cycles where I'm like, okay, like this is great. This person like satisfies all these things, but like I think I could still do better. And then like you end up in this like revolving cycle of constantly feeling like you
let me ask you one, because I mean, and we're gonna get into it in a minute whether hypergamy actually is a bad thing or a problem or it isn't. But one of the big complaints that the men's self-improvement, the red pill community always has is when complaining about female hypergamy is that they always know who's next.
Mm-hmm.
In past relationships, have you been deeply into a relationship and you knew who was next?
Not always, but a lot of
But
the time, yes.
It has happened.
It was kind of like I was committed to that relationship that I was in, but then if I saw someone else that I was just like, okay, like I'm actually kind of interested in this person and I know I could get them, then I would consider leaving that person. But before I did that, I would have to do some like introspection and say like, okay, why am I feeling this way? What are the needs that I don't feel are being met? Are they things that I should be doing myself or that actually fall on my partner, and then go from there? Instead of just being like, all right, bye, like this isn't good enough for me. I'm on to the next thing that will be better.
Right.
But it's definitely real.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I 100% endorse the concept. Would you agree that the worst thing a man can do is bore a woman that he's with?
Bore?
Bore her.
Like be boring?
Like become boring. Yeah.
What do you mean? How does he
Like,
become boring? Does he just stop doing anything?
Becoming, I don't know, a couch potato and, whatever.
Oh, yeah, that's super unattractive.
Like if you're bored in your relationship, you're going to want out.
I think if you communicate it and then what you communicate is not being met, then you can get out. Because then that obviously shows that person, one, doesn't respect you and probably doesn't respect themselves enough to be committed to a relationship. So it's like, why are you going to stay in that? Because there's a lot of man boys out there, man childs.
Absolutely. Actually, we have a good comment here from Geeky Anomaly. Justin, I'll let you read it since I'm always the one reading comments.
All right. This says hypergamy is like water. It takes the shape of its container. An Amish woman is just as hypergamous as in Miami 304s. So for
Do you know what a 304 is?
So people who don't know what 304s, if you had a beeper or a calculator, you'd write upside down. It's the hose. If you transplant,
that's just to help with the YouTube algorithm.
Let me finish the other half. It said, if you transplant the Amish girl into Miami, her hypergamy game will
expand and become more aggressive. It's the second part.
Okay. So, I forgot who I had this conversation with the other day, but we were talking about having to go outside of the country to find a decent woman these days. And I'm like, wait, but if I go to a different country and find a more traditional woman, can I bring her back to this country? And honestly, I don't think so, because it's only a matter of time until the media gets her and television and ads, and she's going to want to be wearing the coolest thing. She's going to see all these beautiful girls and want the same makeup that they have. And soon she's going to see the lifestyles that other girls have from other men. And maybe I picked the wrong man. How come he's not providing? Well, how come I'm not on a boat? Like,
yeah, no. And Donovan said it last Sunday when he was here. If you go and you do find that girl, don't bring her back here.
Yeah.
I would say if you do bring her back here, take her to Idaho or Utah or some tiny small town in the middle of nowhere where
they have nice country boys with all the muscles.
There you go. Well, that's the thing. That's what I wanted to get to. Hypergamy, I don't see it as a bad thing. I think just like the we talked about, I forgot what it is that we're talking about, but I say
hypergamy is normal. It's normal for women.
It's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It just is.
In our culture, in the Western culture, is our hypergamy more of a competition for women? And what I mean by that
maybe
is social media. Bring social media into it. Is it more women in competition with women seeing the better things that different types of men are providing? And they're like, are they just getting jealous and wanting to not one up themselves, but to one up their own lives and show like, oh, I got this now?
I think, and maybe it does speak to the hypergamous and the dualic, the pluralistic mating strategy of women. I think women are always in competition with other women. Sarita, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I think that's somewhat true. Like, I feel like people in general are always in competition. I don't think that's specific to women. I feel like men compete with each other a lot too.
We do. I don't think we do it as much as women do.
You don't think so?
No, like I
I
mean,
think women
let's
compare.
say we're
We're
out of the
more in
bar.
competition with ourselves.
Yeah, we're more in competition with ourselves. Like if you and me are hanging out at a bar and we see another couple walk in, I'm not looking at the guy and saying, "Oh, that guy, blah blah blah." But you are very bound to look at that woman and say, "Look at that fucking dress," or "Ew, those heels," or something like that. That I've seen that a million times. I feel
Yeah.
it's very natural.
I think it's more comparison instead of competition.
Maybe, but
Because you look at it
doesn't
like
compare. Doesn't comparison
like,
naturally
okay.
lead to competition?
Hmm?
Doesn't the comparison naturally lead to competition?
Not necessarily.
Like if you see this beautiful couple and you're admiring the woman and it doesn't mess with your own mind a little bit, like how come I don't have a guy like that? How come he doesn't treat me like that? Look at the way he's pushing in her chair and taking care. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like when women in relationships see something that they can compare their own lives to, they're broken. It's already like over. Their relationship is game over because now they're thinking, how come I don't have that? How can my life be better? Why is that my man this?
I mean,
Well-
I've had thoughts like that where like I'll look at something and be like, oh, like it'd be really nice to get like that type of treatment, or it'd be really nice to get like the little things, the subtleties.
Yeah.
But then that doesn't mean like the relationship is doomed necessarily. It's just like, okay, like those are little things that I would like. If I really want it that bad, I could say, hey, like consider doing this more. But
Well,
I don't think the relationship's doomed completely. I think if it's like the bare minimum, then yeah, sure, it's doomed.
well,
Because
let me
then
bring
you're
this up.
fighting for her emotional needs, which is
Let me
something.
bring this up. Let me bring this up because I think it talks to a very basic difference between men and women, and that is in that scenario where a woman sees, well, why not? You know, why am I not being treated that way? And maybe the man sees the same thing. Why can't I get a girl as hot as that? I feel like when a man sees that, most men. Not this isn't all men because there's a lot of chumps out there. Let's call it that. Men will look inward and say, okay, I need to work out like the guy she's with. I need to get more money like the guy she's with. They look at the guy she's with and they think, I need to become more like that.
Mhm.
The women, conversely, will look at the girl, and I've seen this play out right next to me. The first thing out of the mouth, oh, she must be a slut.
What?
The women, instead of the
For
women
me,
looking
women are
inward,
mean. That's
and
why most of my friends are guys.
say again?
I said women are just mean. That's why most of my friends
Yeah.
are guys.
Exactly. Women are just mean, and women are, I think, far more competitive because of hypergamy. Because women are always looking for the next level up. Men are much more likely to settle than women are.
Yeah. That's true. I feel like women will like quote unquote settle, but they're not actually settling because they're still thinking about what's next.
Very true. Let me reset real quick for everybody watching. Please hit the like button. You are watching the J&J Dating Dynamics podcast. We were supposed to have Jade on tonight along with Sarita, but Jade flaked on us. It's all Justin's fault, by the way. You can blame him. But we do have the lovely Sarita with us, whom we love very much. She was actually our very first guest on this podcast. And we are celebrating our 10th episode today. So please hit the like button and share this podcast around. We're trying to maybe make it something. So here we are. All right, Justin, I want you to say more. I feel like you have a lot to say. You've been wanting to do this episode for a very long time, but you're very quiet tonight.
Yeah, I get in my moods.
Wait, is it that part of your menstrual cycle? Or are you going through your Hypergamous phase?
Yeah, I'm ovulating. Hunting for a mate. I don't know. It's just something that has had me curious for a while. I definitely feel, and we've spoke about this several times already on this podcast, I feel like I was definitely cheated on in my last relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And it's honestly me looking inward to myself and just trying to figure out where things went wrong and trying to reevaluate the situation. and I realized that I was outplayed in the game.
Right.
You know, my ex-girlfriend, who swears she didn't cheat, I believe she did, and we spoke about this with Donovan. If you can't figure it out, she definitely did.
When in doubt, it happened.
I mean, you know, we're together for 6 years. We break up. She moves out. She asked me for a piece of luggage. Said she was going to Mexico, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, nice. And then she was like, yeah, with a man, and I'm like she made it a point to tell me that, and I'm like, you just moved out. Like after
Well,
6
that's the
years,
thing.
you're not going to take any time to
No,
yourself.
that's the thing.
You don't
And
have to heal. Like, okay, you were cheating.
that speaks perfectly to hypergamy and the concept of monkey branching, right? Like a woman usually doesn't jump from one relationship. She doesn't get out of one relationship before
Oh,
having
no.
another one lined up or knowing who's next.
I spoke about this also
Yeah.
on the last episode. You know, I had we had created a business together, and for that reason I had access to like her bank account as well as she had mine. And I did notice like her savings were going up right before she moved out. It's like she was planning on moving out.
Red flag.
But you know, I don't know who the guy is, but I checked out, you know, obviously I see that they're together. I see the guy's social media. All this guy does, and she loved to be wine and dined. Like most of our relationship, that was her hobby, was to just, I'm like, you have
Go out to
expensive hobby. Like just like to wine and dine and wanted to be spoiled and
Wait,
travel.
that's another.
To want to be treated? That's not a red flag.
Well, if she constantly wants to go out to the expensive place for the status, for everything,
I think
that's
Yeah.
a red flag.
I mean, there was a point where I wanted to build a better life for us and buy a house. And it's like she just wouldn't let me slow down. You know what I mean? She wouldn't hunker down and like, let's save money together.
She wouldn't focus.
Does she not budget at all?
Not really. I mean, we had a very fun relationship, but it's like it obviously wasn't sustainable.
Yeah.
Right.
So she found somebody. If you look at the guy's social media, he must be like some kind of photographer, but constantly traveling. And if you look at her social media, she's in Fiji, in these islands that she used to show me. Like, look at this. I want to go on vacation here. Well, she went there with another man. So
yeah.
So in that sense, that drove me to figure out what hypergamy is. And, you know, I see it for what it is. And like Sarita, like we had just said, this made me focus inward. And it's like what I can do to change myself. And honestly, I feel like when you get a guy, sometimes the guy can, you said it before, the worst thing you can do is bore a woman.
Yep.
And I noticed myself change within that 6 years where I had just signed with Warner Brothers. I was a music producer. I was getting girls left and right. I had an amazing luxury place. Like things were just happening for me. I was very active. I had music on the radio. I was throwing parties. I was just out there in it. But after a while of me falling in love, I started focusing on my girl. And it's you know, I thought I was doing the right thing. But I instantly like started doing things that she liked to do and going here and doing less of the things that I love to do. And it's like the more and more of myself I gave to her, I realize it now that the more and more she was losing interest because I was just there catering to her. And in my mind, I'm like the best boyfriend ever. Like whatever you want to do, we're doing it.
There you go.
But
And
in reality, you're getting boring. You're not.
Yeah, that gets to the one problem that today's society, that hypergamy brings into it, is that men, we've always been told to do the right thing. That means essentially happy wife, happy life. You do whatever you need to do to keep your wife happy.
Yeah.
That, and I've lived this, that starts you on a process to becoming somebody completely different than who she fell in love with.
Absolutely.
And ultimately you become boring.
I used to have a different view on that. I used to believe in the happy wife, happy life, but it's like
I did too. And
the moment that you stop spoiling that girl,
yeah. Now, conversely, men are always told to do what's right. Women are always told to do what's right for them. So when that man becomes boring, now she gets bored. Maybe you're 5, 10 years into a marriage. She's still 35, 38, relatively hot. Now maybe she starts looking at other things. Maybe she starts looking at, like Richard Cooper said, Kevin from sales is starting to give her a lot of attention. She starts looking outside of that. Now what happens? Now women get to that eat, pray, love journey. Girl, do what's right for you. And what's right for me is because I'm bored in this relationship, I'm monkey branching to this one.
Sarita,
Now they're going on a self-discovery journey.
I see her thinking over there.
Yeah, I can see the wheels turning.
I feel like it also has to do with needs, though. Like, you have to know which needs your woman or man needs satisfied. And you have to make sure that you keep satisfying those needs for them as they should keep doing for you. And then once those needs stop being satisfied and stop being met, that's when you start looking to other places.
But
you also let it be the same thing. So it's like, okay, like she likes being wined and dined. Okay, like that's fine. But instead of it being like a different fancy restaurant every time, you could switch it up and say like, all right, like this food, like this is the best food truck in the area. We're doing that. And then you have to like change it so that it's not the same thing every single time, even though it's still what she wants, just putting a different spin on it.
You got to make sure she's not bored. That's essentially what you just said. You're absolutely right.
That was a great comment on the bottom of the screen before.
Yep, it does say from Geeky Anomaly, men interpret stability as peace, women interpret stability as boredom. Yeah. Geeky Anomaly bringing the fire tonight.
I mean, for me, the only time that I've ever wanted to like financially move forward with my partner, it always includes hunkering down and saving money.
Right.
Like, obviously, in the beginning of the relationship, you guys are having tons of fun. You're going on tons of dates. I don't think that should ever stop. You should still go on dates. You don't have to go out and blow your money to have a good time and be a couple together. Yeah. And I feel like the wrong women for men won't understand this. And they'll take a guy for everything. And, you know, the guy will keep giving because that's just in our nature. We want to entertain the woman.
Let me ask you guys this, and if possible, give me a one-word answer. Justin, what's the most important thing in a relationship?
The most important thing in a relationship. That's a hard one to pin, but one of them is definitely respect. Communication.
Trust. Okay. Do you guys think both of those, respect, trust, communication, are all things that you can work on throughout a marriage?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I'm going to disagree with you both. I'm going to say the most important thing in a relationship is sex.
Sex is also really important.
I think it's the most important because, like I said, trust you can work on, communication you can always work on, respect you can always try to be more respectful and everything, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If genuine desire for sex with your mate is not there, nothing else is going to work.
No, you're right there.
Nothing else is going to work, and you can't get that back.
No.
It's very, very hard to gain back genuine sexual desire for a person.
Yeah.
Once I can see you smiling. Yeah, once it's gone, it's gone. Once she lost attraction for you, it's done. But once you lost attraction for her, it's probably gone too.
But why did you lose attraction for the person?
Well, it can be many, many things. I mean,
that's where you go to the other things. So, like, for me, I've lost attraction to guys because they didn't listen to me. Like, I know that sounds like crazy, but like
a little bit.
They asked for my advice. They said my advice was good, and then they did the exact opposite.
In the bedroom?
No, in life. Like,
not
even in the bedroom.
Sure.
And then just by like that act was enough for me to be like, I'm not interested in this.
Now, okay.
Everything he did was like gross.
Here, I think it's important to state the difference between attraction and arousal.
No,
Go
ahead.
Sorry,
go ahead.
No, please.
No, I was going to say like all attraction, all arousal, all of it was completely gone.
And that's the thing. I think women's arousal is far more tied to things other than physical appearance and sexual maybe performance. They're tied to money, provisioning, how a guy carries himself, his confidence, etc., etc. Men mainly we're concerned with the looks.
It's
Does
just
she look good?
completely physical.
Yeah,
The
for the most part.
the only reason we would like stray from that is physically. If time goes and you start to go and you lose yourself, that's the only way we'll lose physical attraction.
Pretty much, exactly. It's a lot harder for men to lose genuine desire. Now, she's very, very hot, but she's a complete bitch and she nags you all the time and etc. etc. You just can't bear it. Maybe you won't get a, you might not get hot for her, but that threshold is a lot. That line's a lot finer for women.
Yeah.
Women can lose attraction like that because the guy said the wrong joke at a party.
Yeah,
Now that's it. And once that's gone, that's gone.
Not.
You cannot
It's
get that
not
back.
physical. I believe it's definitely not physical.
Well, but it can be. It doesn't have to be. Because I mean, you can let yourself go and get fat too, and maybe she doesn't like fat guys. It happens.
I mean, I guess like in my experience, it's more emotional than physical.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I still have that emotional connection, then
right.
Then it'll be fine. But like once anything in that emotional connection is gone, whether it's I don't feel like they're attracted to me and I don't feel like they love me, or I don't feel respected or cared for or trusted, like it's just not gonna work.
Yeah, gotcha. And that speaks to something we've talked about before: is that sex is a lot more emotional for women than it is for men. Absolutely.
No, absolutely.
Geeky Anomaly's curious as to what was the advice the guy asked you for.
Okay, I'll give the situation. So basically, he got a job and was working there for a week. And then he called me upset, saying he hated his life, he hated the job. And this is also in the middle of COVID. And then he said, I feel like quitting. I don't want to do it. Now, with the job he had, there was a 90-day period where he could mess up and like completely fail at his job, but he would still get paid. And he wouldn't have to pay back any bonuses, nothing. Like solidified for 90 days. Healthcare, all the things that you want in a job, right?
Damn.
So he said, hey, like I really don't like it here. What should I do? What do you want me to what do you think? And I was like, okay, well, you're guaranteed this 90-day paycheck. So stay there for those 90 days. It's guaranteed. While you're staying there, either build a skill in your off hours so that you can get a different job, or just search for a different job in the same industry if that's what you want to do. And he said, you know what, that's logical, that makes sense, I'm going to do that. The next day, I mean, it was also like my brother was having surgery, so like I was preoccupied with other things. The next day, he calls me and he goes, oh, by the way, I quit yesterday. And I was like, hold on.
Sorry, let me ask you this. At this point, how long had you been with him? 6
months.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead. Finish the story.
6 months, but I knew him pretty much my entire life.
Okay.
So yeah, so like the next day he's like, oh yeah, no, like I quit. I couldn't do it anymore. I didn't sleep all night. And then I just quit. And I was like, I'm like, that's an issue for me. I'm sorry. Like, and then from there, like I just slowly started like fading out. And I was like, I can't.
He quit without securing another job first?
He quit without securing another job. So then he was just living at his parents' house, which is fine. Like a lot of people live at your parents' house. Like no hate towards that. I lived at my parents' house until like recently. But he just quit. Nothing else lined up. No idea on what he wanted to do next. Like if you want to quit and you're like, I want to be a musician and I have the talent and I like have the drive and I know what I want, go for it. I'm all about following your dreams.
All right, Sarita, let me bring up these two comments from Geeky Anomaly. I actually agree with him quite a bit. So here we go. Here's the first one. And let me play them both before you comment, okay? He says, I have a theory. You didn't lose attraction to him because he didn't take your advice, but because he showed weakness. A man should never complain to his woman that he hates his job. He made you his mom in that moment. That's why you lost attraction, because you lost respect for him. What do you say to that? Because I agree with him.
I was in a mom role a lot in that relationship, and that was another reason why I lost attraction too, because I didn't respect him.
There you go. So maybe that complaint was the final straw, whether or not he took your advice.
Yeah, I think it was also just he went from doing something that could have been very logical to illogical. It's like I'm okay with if a guy shows me weakness, I'm okay with that. because through weakness, you can also show perseverance and strength through that weakness or through that low moment.
I
So
also
I'm
think it
okay with
depends.
that.
I think it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying like, but there was no moment where he was strong in his
Okay, so
weakness.
he never showed strength.
He didn't show strength. So then
I
for
think
me, like
I'm
I
sure
think a
if he
man
would have,
always needs to show strength. However, if he, let's say a man, you guys are in a relationship, he loses his job, that can affect a man quite a bit. It's
Mhm.
okay. It's okay to maybe come home, sulk for a day, for an afternoon. The
Yeah.
next day, you got to be right back up trying to figure out what's next. You got to show that bounce back immediately.
Mhm.
yeah.
Sorry, Justin, go ahead.
Vulnerability is okay. That
Yeah,
vulnerability.
vulnerability is okay. Like
I
exactly.
prefer guys when they're vulnerable with me because then it's like, okay, I actually understand what's going on in your mind. And then also just like mental health for guys is terrible. Like you guys don't talk about your mental health enough. You guys don't seek therapy. You don't seek assistance as often as women would. So then like that's why suicide rates for guys is so high. So it's like they
Well,
should be
I was gonna say in my past relationship, the one I was talking about, same girl. I had a moment of weakness where I was transitioning from moving from New Jersey to Miami. And the way I found work was working for a company that I was a subcontractor for up while I was in New Jersey. I had something in place where I couldn't work for them directly while I was living in Jersey. So then I jumped state and I was able to move for them. Now they were based out of New Jersey, but I was living in Miami. So I was traveling all over the place.
Sure.
And, I got into it with my manager for whatever reason. And I lost my job actually. And it's, something that rarely has ever happened to me. But we got into a heated debate and they were absolutely in the wrong. But, manager wanted to cover his own ass. So I got fired. I didn't work for 3 months. And my girl, we were living together. She held it down. And I'm not a man that easily accepts that. So immediately I wanted to go to work. And in Miami, I could go work at a restaurant and pull like $300 or $400 a day. And I wanted to go do that because I had an in. And she insisted that I be patient and wait till I find something that I want. And for me as a man, that's like, all right, that's cool, but you're letting me be weak until I find something instead of being the provider that I know I am. Like, let me be hungry and I'll go get a job until I find something that I really like for the meantime. So I think that downtime really created that moment of weakness for me. And it just made it clear for her to jump ship. And I laugh because, like I say, Sarah, we're our own competition. I didn't need anything from her to know that I was failing. Like I already internally knew it. But I was patient and I found an amazing job working in the port of Miami right before COVID. And, I went from here to here and she was gone already. And it's like, I felt like you're such an idiot. If you would have just held on, we would have been good. But it is what it is. I mean, she left me. I was young, successful, and I had a brand new Harley, and I'm in Miami, single. And then I met this crazy guy over here. Like,
the rest is history on that. But so she said it was okay for you to be weak and vulnerable, quote unquote, while you find what you want. But it sounds like throughout that process, maybe she lost respect for you.
Well, because she was holding down the fort financially. And for me, it hurt, but it wasn't that bad because I was holding us down for a long time. And like, yeah, she also brought some responsibility to the table, but for the most part, I covered everything that we did. You know what I mean?
Right. I think that speaks beautifully to the point that men and women are not equal. In a relationship, the entire concept of equality in a relationship is crap.
I had my girl, like, some people are like, oh, you get into a relationship, you move in with a guy for what? So you can pay half the rent? Like, I covered all the bills, and yes, my girl actually did give half the rent. But guess what I did with her half of the rent?
Spent it all by going to dinner.
We went and wined and dined with it.
You bought a motorcycle?
No. That was after we were done. But no, seriously, Sarah hit it right on the head. Her contributing to the household gave me the freedom to go wild on her with that extra money.
Sounds like you were hypergamous in this case.
I don't know how that makes sense, but okay.
I don't know either. All right, guys, let me reset here. We are at 55 minutes. You are watching the J&J Dating Dynamics podcast. I am Jay. That guy down there is Jay. We're joined by Sarita today, who is awesome for being here, as always, giving us her stories, her advice, her 2 cents. So she was buying her own dinners, LOL. You can read the comments of that. She was buying her own dinners, essentially.
No,
she was the one taking you guys out. If you are watching on YouTube, please hit the like button. Share this podcast if you would.
That sounds so terrible.
But it's true.
It is. It absolutely is.
Yo, hey, living in Miami is not cheap, especially
hell no.
Especially when you have a girl that just likes to be spoiled.
Yeah.
You should still spoil your girl though. Like,
oh well, yeah, of course you got to spoil her from time to time. That's fine, but first she has to earn that in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, if she's being
if I'm spoiling my women,
I'm not spoiling you.
I also need to be spoiled. It comes in different forms, but I want to be spoiled back.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy, I'm sorry to say, Sarita is taken at the moment. He wants to buy you dinner, but
that's sweet.
She is gonna ask how expensive it is.
Yeah, how is it? Half a rent's worth of dinner?
Oh, I shouldn't have told you guys anything.
That's funny. All right, guys, we are at 56 minutes. We're about to wrap it up here. Sarita, final thoughts, please. And please tell folks where they can find you on Instagram.
Oh, Sarita 35. It's 2 A's at the end, so Sarita.
A.
Yeah, I think this is a really good topic. I think women do like to. It's okay. You shot your shot.
I actually think you met Jeremy.
Really?
I think you met him at a bike night. Maybe. I could be wrong, but anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know. The last bike night I wanted to go to was raining, but anyways, I think women do try to date up, and they do look for what's better more than what guys do. Because I feel like guys are like, okay, I locked this down. Like, they'll still look, but they won't necessarily act on it the same way a woman would. Like, the woman is like, all right, I'm gonna act to get out, and the man's more like, I'm gonna act because that's interesting and it's shiny and it catches my attention. But they don't necessarily want to jump to that long term. They just want to taste it and then come back.
Justin, any thoughts? Geeky Anomaly, any thoughts?
I just didn't like the sound of that.
Yeah, it sounded weird.
Like, I hate that women have to test other men out. Like,
yeah,
it's like
with women now, everything is a test, and that's just how it goes. And if you fail one little one,
it's weird though, because it's like for example, like in my situation, it wasn't like I was thinking like, oh, if he doesn't follow what I like would like for him or whatever. Like, it wasn't like it was in my mind to like shut everything down. It was just like my body was like automatically did it.
Right. And like I said at the beginning, it's never a conscious process.
No.
It just evolves and it happens.
Yeah.
And if you're self-aware enough to realize it, I think that makes you way more apt to be successful in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy's final thought is find a down-to-earth girl with realistic expectations for the long run. That's good. That's good final thought, Jeremy. But I will reiterate, all women are hypergamous to a degree. Justin, final thoughts?
I actually really agree with Jeremy on that point. Find a real partner who's down for the long haul. Like, I'm not looking for one that's waiting at the finish line. You know what I mean?
Well,
I want to be running.
Another,
I want somebody coming up to me in the middle of a marathon, throwing me a bottle of
well,
water.
that's
You know
the
what I
thing,
mean?
and that's another common hypergamy in the community. That's another common quote is women don't care about the race; they hang out at the finish line and fuck the winners.
Yeah.
I know you were trying to close out, but there was this
That's
quote
fine.
that stuck with me a while ago. I don't remember where it came from. It was from a book I read, but it was talking about relationships and said, you're running a race and you're going for your marathon. You know you found the right person, not by who's at the finish line or who is training you or who's like coaching you through it. It's by looking to your side and seeing who else is running that same race alongside you.
Yeah.
Still independently and still putting in the work, but like
Sure.
that's your partner.
Yeah.
Not the person that just shows
That's
up
an interesting thought.
or is only there in the beginning and isn't there to push you through. It's the person that's actually putting in the work in the beginning,
Yeah.
putting in the work as they're going through, and then going across the finish line with them.
I mean, as a man, we're looking to find that woman, and just as soon as we get her, we're running from there. We're on our mission. You know, we want to do exactly what you girls want from us. We want to be the provider. We want to build a home and start a family. But if you're waiting for the guy at the finish line, guess what? He's not going to want to build with you. He built it on his own.
Yeah.
He's got
I wanna
options.
disagree.
Guess
I gotta
what?
disagree with you, Justin.
You're gonna be standing there at the finish line with a bunch of girls, and he can pick any of them.
I gotta disagree with you, Justin. I think a man has to run his race, then worry about a woman. The woman's got to come up to you during your race while you're already running, while you're already on that journey. If she wants to come along for the ride, great.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I'm saying like
No, you said you find that woman, then you start running. You got to be running well before that.
see that's what
And maybe we're talking metaphorical
No,
semantics here,
yeah.
but I think it's important.
No, I'm talking about the same thing you're talking about. You want a
Okay.
woman that's going to run the race with you. Like in my situation with my ex, I told her I wanted to save money so we can start looking to buy a house.
Mhm.
And she couldn't get over the whining and dining, so she obviously wasn't running the race with me.
Well, that's because women. I think when women say they want to build, they want a man who's building something. Saving isn't a sexy word. I think maybe investing,
is.
or I'm playing the stock market, or
What'd you say, Sarita?
I said investing is a sexy word.
There you go. Investing is. Exactly. So sorry, Sarita, we cut you off. What were you gonna say?
No, I was saying like with the quote though, it wasn't that you guys started the race together. It's that you guys each started the race.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of the race you looked over and you're like, oh wait, like they're on the same path I'm on. Let's keep going together.
All right, like I said,
Exactly.
I think maybe we're talking metaphorical semantics at this point. But Justin, any final thoughts?
No, basically, like we're talking about hypergamy. So that's what I'm talking about is, the women that are looking for the men that are already established instead of being willing to run that race with the man, because I think you got to build with somebody. If you don't build with a man and he's already built, he's always going to view that woman like an option. I mean, and
Sure.
it might not be that like that in every case, especially for the more successful men that aren't the quote unquote alpha. They're more like, you have the quiet nerds. They might be in a financially great spot, so they might not have those options, even though they are. But just generalizing.
They're getting into like the SMV slope for men.
Sexual. For those of you who don't know, it's SMV's sexual market value.
And then looks, wealth, age.
Well, for men, looks, youth are at the top. Then everything else.
For women?
No, for men.
Like,
women have a much longer laundry list or checklist, grocery list, whatever you want to call it. All right, my final thoughts are: please, everybody, obliterate that like button. Obliterate it, please. And then I have a feeling we're going to be doing quite a few shows on this topic because there's just so much to cover, and this conversation can go in so many different ways. Sarita, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. I look forward to having you back on. You were guest number 1 on episode 1. Now you're a guest. I don't know which number guest you are, but you're on episode 10. Every 10th episode, you got to come on. Understood?
Every episode with the one.
I like having Sarita on because I feel
Yeah.
like she's not the typical modern woman.
No.
Well, she's definitely not the typical Miami girl. That's for sure. That we know for a fact.
Yeah.
But I will say all women are hypergamous, even Sarita. To some degree.
Maybe a little.
With that, we are going to sign off. Thank you all for watching the J&J Dating Dynamics podcast. Please hit that like button, share, subscribe. Everybody, I think that's going to do it.
See you
Peace
soon,
out.
guys.
Stay in the studio, guys.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Good night.